Hey there, welcome back to the Millennial Book Junkie. My name is Monique, and I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I'm in a lot of pain today. I threw out my back a few days ago, so I am just kind of trying to recover and think good thoughts about books, but it is a little hard. So if I make a lot of like winces throughout this video, that is why. Today I'm gonna be talking about all the books that I read in June of 2026. We are officially in summer, you guys, and I like to celebrate by reading all of the scary books for Summerween. Now, Summerween is really just celebrating Halloween in the summer, and to do that, I like to watch scary movies, read scary books, a little bit more than I usually do. So I'm really trying to immerse myself in like a lot of scary stuff right now. Even though my reads from June weren't super scary, like moving into the future, I really want to make sure that I'm reading a lot more scary books. So when I think back on this reading month of June 2026, I feel like it was just so. And I've been feeling like every month this year, I really have not been feeling like, oh, that was such a great reading month. Even during months when I've had like multiple 5 stars. Every time I do a wrap up, I'm always just kind of like, it was an okay month. And I think the reason why that is because I'm reading a lot of book club books, some arcs that I feel like there's like a deadline to read them by. And I find myself just like racing through them and not really getting to enjoy them. And also, I find myself just like reading stuff that I'm like not super excited about. And I feel like that really ruins the reading experience for me. So I think moving forward, at least the next couple months, I'm just gonna like focus on reading books that I really want to read and just try and like get through those. So let's talk about the books that I read in June, and then I really want to share with you all of my Summerween hopefuls. I've stopped doing TBR videos just because I'm such a mood reader now that at the beginning of the month I have no idea what I'm gonna feel like reading, but I do want to share with you some scary books that I hope to read this summer. But first, let's talk about June. So in June, I read 7 books. I read 2,609 pages, and everything was fiction per usual. 3 of these books were physical, 3 of these books were audio, and 1 was an ebook. And that's a little different from prior months. I'm finally starting to read a little bit more of my physical books. I really need to get through that physical TBR, so I'm really glad that I actually read 3 physical books this month. Usually I tend to read like 1 to 2, so that's a plus. So in the month of June, I had 2 5-star reads, and my average star rating was 4.29, which is actually up from what it was last month, which was 4.2. And I think in this wrap up, I'm going to start with the books that I rated the lowest and then go to highest. So let's start with the lowest rated books first. So the first book that I'll mention is She Waits Where Shadows Gather by Michelle Tang. I listened to this one on audio, and really it's a haunted house story. It's a haunted house story with a woman named Avery and her husband Carlos, and they go to the Philippines because Carlos is trying to go back home to the Philippines because he's trying to help his parents sell their house. Carlos actually has a hit reality show where he debunks anything paranormal, but everything kind of changes when they get to the Philippines, when they get to Carlos's parents' house, because they start seeing some really weird things that lead them to believe that the house might actually really be haunted. And then the husband Carlos gets in a very tragic accident where he becomes bedridden. And it really kind of ruins any future plans that they had there in the Philippines as a couple. So the wife Avery is sort of left to her own devices, trying to figure out what to do. Her husband is now bedridden. They're living in this weird house, and she really wants to go home. So she's trying to figure out what's going on with the house, so hopefully she can like solve everything and make everything better. Well, what she discovers is pretty terrifying. And I really actually enjoyed the Filipino folklore in this book. It was very genuinely creepy and interesting to learn about some of the superstitions in the Philippines and just like the ancient history of what people believe about ghosts there. Very creepy, very interesting stuff. And some of the dialogue in here just had me genuinely creeped out. I think where this book sort of fell apart for me was that I didn't like Carlos's character. I mean, he was very mean. Sometimes his character was a little inconsistent, and I just felt he was like kind of all over the place, and I did not like his character at all. And unfortunately, I couldn't really connect with Avery. She was the main character, she was the wife. And even though I empathized with some of the stuff she was going through, I just didn't connect with her enough to like really enjoy the story to where it was like amazing. So I gave this one 3.5. I think it was good. I think it was creepy. But there were some parts where I just kind of lost interest. But I don't know. I would recommend it if you really like ghost stories from like around the world. And I just felt like it was good in terms of being a little bit creepy and if you're curious about that, but overall, it was okay. 3.5. The next book I read was Try to Keep Up by Shay Knudsen. And this was an arc that I read. It is a debut for this author. She's an indie author. And it's about this nanny who is taking care of these two kids. I say kids, one of them's like a legit kid, but the other one's kind of like a teenager. And she picks them up from school one day, but they get in this accident. And after that, nothing is really the same in the family with the kids. One of the kids, the teenager, she starts acting very strangely, starting to like do things in the middle of the night that are creepy. And this is a nanny who lives with the family. So she is seeing all of this stuff, these changes firsthand. And she's trying to tell the parents like what's going on, like her daughter is just kind of like changed in a very bizarre way. And not to mention a neighborhood boy goes missing, and the nanny, this main character, is just trying to figure out like what's going on and with all these creepy things that are happening. And genuinely, this author, I can say like she knows what she's doing. Like she's an indie author, debut book here, but she knows what she's doing. I mean, this story was very well written and it moved along so well. Like I was genuinely interested and it didn't feel like too much fluff or anything like that. Like it was very clear and more of like a popcorn thriller where like I kind of was curious what was going on like the whole time. So I really think this author is like on her way to doing bigger things because I felt like it was really well written. I think where this one fell off for me was more like I just wanted more character development for the main character. I feel like she was so invested in like trying to figure out what was going on, but like she wasn't interested in anything else. Like we didn't know about her life outside of, you know, her life as a nanny. We didn't know like her background or like there wasn't really anything going on in her life other than solving this like weird thing that was happening with the daughter. So I just felt like she needed to be just a little bit more developed. And I also feel like the ending confused me. So I really do think though that this has all the makings of a really good like nanny thriller. Like if you like nanny thrillers, like this one was very interesting to read and I really enjoyed it, but I gave this one a 3.5 as well. Okay, so let's talk about the books that I rated 4 stars this month. The first one is The Taverna at the Edge of Night by H.Y. Hannah. This one is a destination thriller set on the island of Crete, and it is about a woman named Daphne who decides to take a trip to Crete to visit her friend Roxy, who has just opened up a taverna there. This whole trip is a surprise. She does not tell her friend Roxy that she's coming, and when she gets there, her friend Roxy is like so surprised to see her and not in a good way. She's actually a little freaked out. She seems really skittish. She's actually angry too. She does not want her friend Daphne there. She's upset that her friend Daphne surprised her, but then she kind of like recovers and is like, okay, you know what, this is fine, you can stay over here, you know. So Daphne is trying to like get settled into this taverna that she really likes, and the scenery is beautiful. She is in Greece, she's enjoying herself, but then a sort of tragic accident happens, and also things are a little weird too, a little uncomfortable, because Daphne learns that a woman went missing there where she was staying not too long ago, and this woman actually died. So she's like, what happened to this woman who died here? How did she die? Nobody seems to give her any answers. They all say it was an accident. So a few things happen in this book where she is basically trying to figure out what happened to this woman, and she goes on quite the adventure. I really enjoyed this book. I would consider this kind of like a cozy thriller. I know that sounds weird, but it's not genuinely like so suspenseful or scary, but you are definitely curious as to like what happens to Daphne there, and you're curious what happened to this woman who had died there before. And I was a little bit on the edge of my seat trying to figure out what happened. I really enjoyed it. I think this was a great like I don't know. I don't want to say heartwarming, but I mean, it's the content itself isn't necessarily heartwarming, but there's something warm about this thriller, and it's more on the lighter end. There's nothing like super graphic in here or anything like that. And the descriptions of Greece are beautiful. The food, the people, the mythology. It's really, really good if you're looking for like kind of a lighter destination thriller. I really enjoyed this one, so I gave it 4 stars. The next book I read in June was The Last Time We Drowned by Saratoga Schaefer. Now, this was an audiobook, and I think this was the perfect summer read. This was about a broke bookstagrammer. She is taking this influencer job on a yacht in Florida. When she gets on the ship, she meets all these other influencers who are all there to promote this whole yacht experience. But things start getting really unsettling. She keeps seeing things that aren't there. Some of the girls also start acting really shifty, like they know something, but they don't want to talk about it. And then, of course, later they're hit by a storm, and it's kind of like a locked room thing. Like, people start showing their true colors, and things start to get really tense and suspenseful. And then, of course, our main character's past starts catching up with her. She has a lot of guilt over losing a best friend years earlier, and she can't really see past this guilt. It prevents her from seeing things clearly. And then, of course, she's fighting for her life. I absolutely loved this book, not only because it was about a bookstagrammer, which yay, but it was also about like toxic friendships and missed opportunities. And there was a lot of talk about the publishing industry in this book, which I really like because I love learning about the publishing industry. Our main character is trying to write a book in the book, and she gets in her own way, and I think that's just so relatable for a lot of us. So I really liked this book. I gave it a 4.5. I think it's a perfect summer read. This next book that I read in June, I feel could have its own video. Then She Was Gone by Lisa Jewell. I actually think it could have its own Netflix documentary. I don't know if I can talk about this. Just thinking back on it, it kind of broke me. I'm going to start by saying, if you know, you know. But if you don't, let's just give a very brief summary. This is about a woman whose daughter gets abducted, and it basically ruins her whole life. She divorces her husband. She lives by herself. This abduction has just wrecked her. And it's made worse because, like, she never found her daughter. Like, she's just been missing, and she does not know where she is for like 10 years. But then one day she meets this guy, and she starts dating again. She kind of opens up to him. He's very charming. And he introduces her to his daughter, who looks a lot like her daughter that got abducted years ago. And of course, she starts getting a little wigged out. She gets suspicious. This book has multiple perspectives. We get the perspective of the main character. We get the perspective of the daughter who went missing, and a few other perspectives as well. And I'm just going to say, like, when I was reading this book, I could not put it down. Now, I know you hear people saying that all the time, but I literally could not put this down. It really grabbed me emotionally. Like, I felt like I was reading Gone Girl by Gillian Flynn. It was dark and it was gripping. Like, I could not look away. Like, I was so immersed in this story and in these characters. I just had to know like what was going on. And I really just wanted to like sit with our main character, this mom whose daughter was abducted, and just like be with her and grieve with her and feel with her. Like, I don't know what Lisa Jewell did to me with this book, honestly. And I have some thoughts on it that I can't fully share here because I really don't want to give any spoilers. But let's just say that this book was dark and sad. I will say that. I still have a lot of questions. I gave it a 4.5 because even though it was phenomenal, I still have some feelings. I have some feelings about the ending, and it also just kind of broke me. And every time I see it, my heart just kind of goes, and I think that a great book will do that to you. And I just haven't read a book like this in so long. Like, I haven't read a thriller that really made me feel so much in so long. Did you read this one? You might have a different opinion. I've read Reddit threads on this book because I was just like, I needed to kind of like vent about it. I might even do a whole video about it with like a ton of spoilers and just talk about it because it was just gripping and it was dark, and there was stuff that I need questions. I have questions. But overall, if you have not read this one, please do. Please do. And then message me and tell me what you thought, because honestly, it broke me. And I'm sad. I'm done talking about it. Okay, let's talk about the 5 stars. Are you guys ready? The next book I read was No Exit by Taylor Adams. This one is set in Colorado, and I was in Colorado when I read it. I mean, it doesn't get better than that. Unfortunately, I was not in a snowstorm. That would have made it perfect. But either way, I was in the state where this book was based. This book was amazing. What a thrill ride. Oh my God. Okay, so this book is about this like college girl, and she is driving in a snowstorm in Colorado, and her car is like, I'm not about this snowstorm. So she pulls over at a rest stop, and there's like 3 people inside, and she basically has to sit there and wait out the storm because, you know, her car is like not gonna make it through this snowstorm. And she's trying to get to her mom, who is sick. So she's there in this rest stop, and there is no signal. So she is feeling really restless, and like she goes outside, she's trying to get a signal in the snowstorm, and she sees this van in the parking lot. And when she walks by it, she sees like a little hand in the back seat of the van, and there's like this cage that this hand is in. So basically she sees this little kid in the back of the van in this like dog crate cage thing. And she's like, okay, what the, you know what? You know, she goes back into the rest stop, and she inside, and she's like, what do I do? I just saw this kid who's clearly been abducted in this van. And like, how do I even approach this? I have no signal. I can't call the cops. And so she basically has to figure out how to save this kid, and do so without kind of like, she doesn't know who to trust. You know what I mean? So it's like, this book was highly suspenseful, gross in terms of like the gore in this book. Yeah, very graphic, but a lot of unexpected things happened. Like while I was reading this, I was like, you know, when you're reading, you're just reading along, and then you're like, oh my God. And you're like, you have to put the book down because what just happened? Like something just really pulled you out of the blue and surprised you, and you're like, wait, what? And like I had like 3 or 4 moments where that happened in this book, and like by the end of this book I was like, we're still going? Like, how did this main character go through so much? Like, there's a lot. This is a fun one. 5 stars automatically. I cannot wait to read more by Taylor Adams. I absolutely loved this one. The final book that I'll talk about in this wrap up that I read in June was The Fifth to Die by J.D. Barker. And this was book 2 in the 4 Monkey Killer trilogy. Actually, I think there's a 4th book coming out, but this was book 2. And this was continuing with the same story from the first one. If you're not familiar, it's about an investigator who is pursuing a serial killer. This investigator's name is Sam Porter. He's pursuing this 4 monkey killer, and he has like other investigators with him who are trying to help him find this killer, and he's in pursuit of this serial killer in book 2. And this book was better, in my opinion, than the first one because there's a lot more action happening. You know, there's fresh bodies being found in really unique ways, and the investigative team is like, could this be the 4 monkey killer, or could it be someone else? And they're trying to figure it out. And then our main character, Sam Porter, he also kind of does a lot of like this investigative work on the side. You know, that trope where the detectives can't have a life outside of them trying to find a specific serial killer. That is exactly what is happening with ours. And in this book, the interesting thing is that our main investigator guy, Sam Porter, he ends up like getting suspended for a while. So he kind of has to like pursue the investigation on his own. And that made the book really good because it was like he was off on his own adventure while his team was still trying to do like the official investigative work. And what makes this also good is because the feds are now involved. Like the FBI comes in and they are trying to take over the case too. So like all these people are trying to solve this case, and you get all these different perspectives, and there's like nonstop like action. Like every little like chapter where someone, you know, has something going on trying to solve the case is really good and really interesting. and the ending is just, oh my God, I cannot wait for book 3. I absolutely gave this book 2 5 stars. If you have not read this trilogy, you really should. But if you have, you're probably like nodding along at home, like, yeah, girl, I know, because this series is really good. If you like crime thrillers, serial killers, being in the mind of a serial killer, like, you have to check out this series. So that was the last book that I read in June. Well, actually, the last book I'm sharing that I read in June, but it was really good and I cannot wait to read the next one. So that wraps up all of the books I read in June. So now I'm going to kind of rapid fire, just like throw some books at you that I'm hoping to read for Summerween this summer. I am going to try and read as much on my physical TBR as I possibly can, because I have a lot of scary books that are just like staring me in the face every day that I want to read. So I'm definitely going to try and read some of those. So one of the first books that I'm going to read is How to Sell a Haunted House by Grady Hendrix. And this one is upstairs. I have the physical copy, but I am not going upstairs. My back is killing me. So here's somewhere here is going to be the digital cutout of it. But basically, this is, I don't even know what it's about. I'm like 30 pages in. It's about a haunted house, I think. But I know you've probably heard of this or read it if you're like into reading thriller and horror. And this one I'm super excited to read this month. The next book I'm going to try to read this Summerween is The Haunting of Velkwood. This is one I picked up a while ago on one of my book hauls, and it seems really creepy. It's not that big, and I think it's about like some houses that disappeared behind this mysterious veil, and I think a woman went missing. I don't know, but it sounds really creepy, and I feel like it'd be perfect for summer. I'm also going to try and read Phantoms by Dean Koontz. I only know that this one is like a post-apocalypse type of book, and I'm always down for like anything apocalypse, post-apocalypse, and also it's really chunky, so I really like that. I'm really hoping to read this one. I also really want to read The Troop by Nick Cutter. I have no idea what this one is about. I'm pretty sure it is graphic though, and I'm really excited because I have heard nothing but good stuff about this book. Everyone is always talking about it, and I have it on hold on Libby, and I really, really want to get to it. I have heard this book is just like chef's kiss, and I really want to listen to it. I'm also finally going to try and read The Hacienda by Isabel Cañas. I bought this one, no joke, like 2 years ago at Target, and I have not read it. But I think it's more like along the lines of like this woman who moves into this villa and she starts seeing like demons or something. I don't know, but I am here for it. I feel like that's perfect for summer, and I have been wanting to read this since I bought it. Have I read it? No, but I feel like now is the time. I also super want to read Accumulation. I talked about this in one of my Thriller Watch videos. I think it came out in June, and I also have this one on Libby, and I am just like ready for it. This is supposed to be a haunted house story too, and I am just living for haunted house stories right now. And the final book I think I'm gonna hopefully try to read this summer, not this month, but this summer, is Withered Hill. This one I think is more like ghost folklore type of weirdness. My sister got this for me in the UK when she was there, and like I said, I can't remember what it's about. I'm so sorry. I think from what I remember, it's about this woman who, like, I think she was like drunk, and like she like goes back to this old town, and like everyone is wearing like, I don't know, animal headpieces. I don't know. And I've explained it I think on a prior video. I don't remember. I'm so sorry. But it sounds creepy and I want to read it. So that's what's going to happen. Hopefully. Hopefully. And so that's it, guys. That was my June wrap up and my Summerween hopefuls. I would love to know if you guys are going to read anything spooky for Summerween, or maybe you're just like, no, I'm just reading my regular stuff for Summerween. That's cool too. And thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you are not on my bookish newsletter, you are missing out. Please subscribe to that also in the description box below, because I send out new releases in the thriller and horror genre every Tuesday. So you can always stay in the know as to what's coming out that week. All right, I'll talk to you guys next time. Bye.